Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video we will talk about traditional attacks on API. So the first thing to know is the API is just a code. With the API interface, this code is interact with database and interact with file systems and caching. It's normal code, so it can be vulnerable to any type of vulnerabilities, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, IDOR, remote code execution, file uploads, whatever type of vulnerabilities it can be. So beside testing for API specific vulnerabilities, you must test for traditional vulnerabilities. If you don't know what is these vulnerabilities and what it do, I suggest you pause this video and go to Google and OWASP wiki. You can search for these terms and get familiar too. In this video, we will not go through details in these vulnerabilities. Is out of scope for this course. But we will give you a hint in API if you are testing for API and this hint appear somewhere. So it's an indicator that you have to dig deep to find this vulnerability is exploitable or not, and if it exists or not. This hint is not 100% that the vulnerability exists, but it's an indicator that you have to dig deeper to know if the vulnerability exists or not and it's exploitable or not. So our first vulnerability is the IDOR vulnerability. IDOR vulnerability is simple, but it's very dangerous and many developers forget about it. So this is the correct call for the information, but here's the developer getting wrong and pass the ID instead of static routes. So the hint I'm going to tell you now is if you find at anywhere in URLs that ID exists, that indicator like the number call you that change me, you have to, number one thing to do, you have to change this number and see what the response for the server, if the server accept it and process the request or not. So you can test if IDOR exists or not. The second vulnerability is cross-site scripting. Yes, API can be vulnerable to cross-site scripting, but in one condition. The content type of the response must be in form that can execute the JavaScript on the browser. The content type application/JSON is not exploitable, so if you pass an payload, cross-site scripting payload, and the content type application/JSON, it will not execute. But if content type is default text/HTML or it missing, so in this case you can dig deeper to find cross-site scripting, because if you pass a payload cross-site scripting, it will execute. The next type is the SQL injection attack. SQL injection attack is like tricky to find and exploit, especially in modern web applications. But if you trying to manipulate parameters and suddenly you get empty data instead of normal data, this might be an indicator that you change it somehow, the query that execute by the database. So you can further dig deep or run a tool like SQL Map to automate test that if there is a vulnerability here or not. The second vulnerability is remote code execution. Remote code execution, again, if you are trying to manipulate your parameters or change or send wrong characters or something like padding or or anything else in the parameters, and you get response 500 internal server error instead of 200, okay, that means that the server generated an error on the web server, or internally in the operating system, or something else deep. That's a big indicator that there is a remote code execution possibilities here. So you will dig deeper and try to understand the response when the web server returned 500 and when it returned 200, okay. Okay, that's the end. We got to the end of this course. I hope that I give you informations that you can use in practical life and practical pen testing or practical development if you are a web developer looking for secure your API. I think you have to study hard and look at the news, look at security news, be up to date with the vulnerabilities and exploits, and good luck. If anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to contact me. I will leave my contacts in the forum if you want any help. So that's the end. Thank you.